Alrighty, so today I wanted to go over the LR banner, which is one of the new free banners that we have. I think it's this one right here. I wanted to go over the characters that are in the banner and which ones you should choose. Obviously, all of the characters that are on the banner itself are going to be completely RNG. If you can pull some of these characters, that is fantastic. Honestly, the one that you're probably looking for the most is this new legend, Princess Elizabeth. This is the red LR Liz that you can make, and she is phenomenal for a lot of PvE content, so I would definitely recommend, if you do pull her, you do end up building her up at some point. You're obviously going to get her at level 90 full awakened, which is nice, but she is, like, I still think that even with every LR that we have in the game, she's by far, like, the one that you should make the first, in my personal opinion, because she's just so good for everything PvE related. Other than that, obviously there's some good pulls in here, but you know, you could pull LR Escanor, you could pull Gloxenia, you could pull Zeldris, and I do like some of those characters for their, you know, respected uses and everything. Like Escanor is great for like PvE bosses, like the event bosses and stuff like that, because the human team gets through those bosses so easily. And then Zeldris I actually use for Ratatasker, but you can look up a video on that if you really want to. But this banner itself, the mileage rewards we're getting pretty close to are actually pretty good. So unfortunately, I thought you were going to get through the entire thing for free, but you get 14 free pulls on it, which I think ends up landing you right before the second mileage reward. So that'll put you at 420. You'll have to do one multi's worth with your actual diamonds to get into this second reward, and then obviously you'll have to make your way from 450 to 600 to actually get the last reward. So first of all, is it worth it? Depends on your account. If you already have all of the characters on here, whether they're 6/6 or not, you could maybe skip this if you wanted to, but honestly, I would definitely grab the 450 reward just off of the fact that you're paying 30 diamonds for a festival coin. And festival coins are a little bit harder to come by, of course, because they're only available on festival banners. So that can be very, you know, helpful. You can either use that coin with other coins to exchange for a character in the coin shop that you need, or I've more recently been using the festival coins for my 6/6 units to buy hourglasses to get more SA coins and stuff like that. There's a couple of different use cases for some of those, but I want to go over these characters. I want to go over the gear that I've built for them, just in case you're like newer and you want to build them or whatever the case. For the first mileage reward, you can choose between Traitor Meliodas and the Elizabeth of Rebirth. If you are a brand new player, they have just updated the new player and returning player rewards, if I'm not mistaken, to where you get a free copy of Melly anyway. So if you just want to min-max like box CC or something like that, honestly, his ultimate is pretty good, but I think he is basically locked in at this point to be a PvE character, and a lot of the late game PvE sort of enemies and stuff like that do have a lot of debuff immunity, so his ultimate isn't really going to help out all that much. I think you're mainly using him for the kit itself, and in that regard, I don't think having him 2/6 would be worth it over having both of these characters 1/6. So if you really want to, I would definitely recommend grabbing the Elizabeth, just because, you know, she's not honestly good for much. I don't actually use this character basically at all, but just to save yourself the pull later on, and you get her at level 90 and everything like that, it could be a nice little boost in box CC and give you some GP and stuff like that, because you're going to get Traitor Meliodas anyway. If you're a newer player who's already been through the login rewards and everything, because I don't think that they refresh unless you just do the returning player thing. Grabbing a copy of Traitor Meliodas, he is the clear winner here. If you don't have Traitor Melly and you're not a brand new player, Traitor Melly is 100% the best pick of the two. If you don't have either of them, go for Melly. He's better. If you're a brand new player and you're going to get a copy of Melly anyway, I would grab Elizabeth. So, for the second mileage reward, this is the one where you're going to have to spend at least 30 gems to get it. Escanor is the clear winner as far as I'm concerned on like usefulness, because this Escanor, he has a single target card that does additional damage after the damage is calculated from the card, which is very helpful in PvE, because a lot of late game bosses and stuff like that have damage caps on them. Most of the time this character hits hard enough to where he's going to hit a damage cap more than likely with his single target, and then the additional damage is going to go into that second, you know, section of damage that you wouldn't normally be able to hit, because he's going to hit a damage cap. Very helpful in that regard. You can pair him with the blue Roxy, blue Crazy Roxy, and that'll give an additional little bit of damage on top of the single target, which helps get through damage caps even better. Couple of different like nice scenarios in that regard. If you already have this character, or you already have maybe the new Escanor, I do think that the new Escanor is going to be a little bit better at getting through those damage caps, just because of the way his single target kind of like calculates the extra damage. You could potentially go for the Merlin, because the Merlin, although not great on the field anymore, she now has a holy relic that makes her a really, really good backliner for the Sins team, and the Sins team is probably the best team in the game as far as like right now goes. I'm recording this during the festival. Obviously, this banner will be, I think, available for the entire duration of the year. They typically replace this banner every year for the new anniversary that comes out, and then there's a different banner. So if you're watching this later on, Merlin is a great backliner. Escanor is good for PvE content, but he does take a lot of dupes if you want to use him in any other kind of scenarios like PvP. But you'll need a holy relic for the Merlin if you really want to get great usage out of her, though. So just take that into consideration. The last one, you do get these characters as an LR character, so you don't have to worry about spending the LR seals or anything like that to sort of like convert them into an LR. You get them at level 1, which is fantastic. The Ludociel, or everybody calls her Margaret, is the better of the two, if I'm being completely honest. I do have a little bit of a bias because I am a day, actually I'm a day 3 player, but I've been playing the game since it came out, and I really do like this Meliodas, and I actually do get some decent uses out of him. I use him for OG Demon and some stuff like that, but to be fair, clear winner here is Margaret. She's a lot more useful in the Angel team in general, and she's got more PvP potential as far as that goes. So if you end up wanting to build an Angel team at some point, she is very, very helpful to have. The Angels don't get a whole lot of support, so I'm not really sure how much use you'll actually get out of her, to be fair, because even right now the Angel team can work, but it's not very meta. And I think this Lostvayne has pretty much already kind of outlived his usefulness. Like, they did give him an LR, and it did bring him back to the game for a little while, but the meta as far as PvP goes has kind of already left him in the dust. And he has some PvE use cases maybe, but Margaret is definitely the clear winner as far as I'm concerned. So I would pick Margaret. Both of their ultimates are pretty like dupe heavy, so if you already have both of these characters or anything like that, you could just pick one that you want to max out their ultimate. Ludociel gains an effect that disables skill use, or like skill effects on the entire enemy team at 6/6 only, so 1 through 5/6 she doesn't have that, which is incredibly annoying, but if you can get her to 6/6, that is a very nice addition, whereas Lostvayne just ends up doing more damage, and his ultimate is really, really, really strong in general, and it's an AoE, so it can normally wipe the field depending on what you're using him in, of course. So I would probably pick Margaret in that scenario. Let's go over some of the gear. The Meliodases for Lostvayne and for Traitor Melee both are kind of the same. I have 5 different UR gear sets for Meliodas at this point. I typically, because I'm using him for PvE most of the time, I kind of do just end up throwing an attack crit damage set on him. So just kind of personal preference there. Obviously, you could go HP defense if you just want to go for extra box CC and everything, but it's not really going to matter. For Traitor Meliodas, I would probably recommend going for the attack crit just because you're in PvP, or you're using him in PvE, and he's not going to need to really worry about CC in that regard. So just going for extra damage, making sure your hit damage caps, and or just obliterate the enemy if they don't have a damage cap, is probably preferred for him. So what was the other character? Next up, we have this Light Elizabeth, and for this character, she actually, I think, deals extra damage for remaining HP. So this one is a Flood card, and this one is additional damage equal to 3% of max HP. So for her, typically you want to have an HP set. I have an HP crit damage set built for this character, but if you don't really want to do the crit damage pieces because you might not actually get that much use out of her, you can completely just go with a regular HP defense set as well. That would be completely fine. Like I said, this character doesn't really have a whole lot of use cases anymore. She does have a pretty decent ultimate, and I will actually get her 6/6 whenever I get to that part of the banner. But to be fair, the newer Light Elizabeth is much better. For the Light Escanor, I think that he's in pretty much the same scenario as most of the other characters as well, where because you're going to be using this one for probably PvE scenarios, like I said, you could probably get away with using him a little bit in PvP, but he's kind of aged out at this point, and for PvP, you definitely want to have higher ult levels so that way you gain more final flame stacks, because when this character dies, he gains, like, he can take either 4 hits or deal 4 attacks before he ends up burning himself out and dying off the field, and you get more of those stacks as your ultimate level gets higher. But because he's more than likely going to be used for PvP PvE at this point, I would definitely recommend going with an attack crit damage set, just so that way you're hitting, damage caps more consistently, getting as much damage out as you can, of course, because, for the most part, you don't really need CC when it comes to PvE content. And if you do, obviously you could make an HP defense set. There's enough Escanors in the game and enough Melies in the game where building one of each set, like an attack crit set and an HP defense set, is probably preferred at some point. But depending how early on you are, you might want to wait and build just one set at a time. For the Infinity Merlin, there's really not a whole lot of reason to build her anything other than an HP defense set at this point, because she's kind of locked to the back line. Her attack card right here, the Elemental Explosion one, can actually do some pretty good damage, and her ultimate actually hits really hard, but it's only at like higher ult levels, of course. It tends to happen with these festival characters. I originally did build this character and HP crit damage set, which is this one right here, but because she's basically shoved into the backline now and she's not used for a whole lot else, I would probably just recommend going with an irregular HP defense set, just because she's in the backline. Best case scenario, you never see her on the field anyway, because you don't lose a character on the front line. Worst case scenario, she comes down out of the back, and she was basically there just for her passive anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So probably just go for CC there, because more than likely in PvE, or PvP, sorry, you're going to want to have as much CC as possible. And then last but not least, since we've already gone over Lostvayne, we are looking at the Margaret. And Margaret, way back when she very first released, was actually a really decent DPS character. Now that she is an LR character, this is a debuff card, and it lowers crit resistance, which is nice. You're mainly just using this character to build up the passive, and the Holy Relic on the field is kind of nice as well. You're going to want to have to run like full Angel team with her, and more than likely she's just going to be here for support. So in that regard, HP defense is kind of the way to go. She doesn't really have any real use cases outside of PvP. You could potentially use this one on Nidhogg if you want to, but if you have the red Margaret, which is the Summer Margaret, she's actually the Nidhogg specific unit that is going to be a little bit more catered to that fight, and I would recommend you use her instead of the blue one. I know some people do like the blue one more, but there's really no reason, in my personal opinion, to use the blue one over the red one if you already have the red one. So HP defense is fine, and even for the red one, if you had her, I would probably go HP defense anyway, because she only has one attack card, and she's not doing a whole bunch of damage with the card, so attack is kind of irrelevant anyway for the unit. But yeah, that is pretty much it for me. If you have any questions about these units, if you're a newer player or anything like that, feel free to ask. I am 100% willing to give any advice I can, or, feel free to ask in the comments. Maybe somebody else can help you out, or, if I don't have the answers, or whatever the case may be. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you're new to the game or anything, feel free to subscribe and come back for more information if you need to, or ask me questions, and maybe I can make another video for something, or just enjoy the game. So either way, thanks for watching. Subscribe. I will see you guys later.